different events that they're getting involved with. They have their G spot that they kind of move around campus.
You'll have to come visit it sometime when we're out.
I do. I do.
Right. Yeah.
I gotta find that G spot.
You could do a special segment. I'm out at the G spot today, folks. I think that would be a big hit.
I think so too. Like, y'all stay tuned for that. That's gonna happen. Just wait for it.
I think sometimes we just forget that we're still human beings. Yeah, I think it's important that everyone should know their status. Knowing your status is the first step to really kind of having that conversation. I think it's important we learn how to tackle stigma and get rid of it. I think it's such an extremely amazing thing that I get to do this every day and meet such great people and learn their story and share some of their story with the people that watch us every day. To remember to stay hopeful in victory.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Dusty Lyon, and this is the Hopeful in Victory Talks channel. Thank you guys for being up with us and supporting our message. Today we're going to be talking about some really awesome stuff. But before I go ahead and start you off, you already know what I'm going to do. Give you a dab of that coffee. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below. I think the button's going to be on that side. I never really know which side it is. So I'm going to point this side. We'll just like cut that part and like flip it and do all that great stuff. But do subscribe. You can see when I'm posting daily and learn about my life and HIV and all the great people that I'm going to be bringing on the show. But let's go ahead and cut right to it. I have a great and a special guest here with me today. James, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jim Almeda. I'm one of the health promotion and wellness coordinators here at Illinois State University, and glad to be here. Appreciate you reaching out to me, and what you're doing I think is really neat. So thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I actually emailed James a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, hi, I'm doing advocacy work or advocating for people living with HIV and kind of talking about HIV and kind of trying to break the stigma. Should I call you James or should I go Jim?
I like Jim. It's less formal. Makes me feel like I'm younger.
Okay, all right. I'll go with that. We're going to go with that, y'all. So yes. I brought Jim along on the channel to talk with us and kind of answer some questions today.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of tell our audience where we're at today?
Sure. So we're over here at Illinois State University. We're in one of our newer facilities. About 8 years ago, we built a new student fitness center. So part of that is our older McCormick Hall building, which was renovated. They kind of connected the two. And so we were moved. Our health promotion and wellness unit was moved over here. Mm-hmm. And so we're on the McCormick Hall side of things. And it's a good spot on our campus, too, because we've got a lot of student traffic that comes through here.
Now have you guys always been at this location?
No, so I started working here on campus back in 1994. At that time, our health promotion unit was located over in the student services building, so right by our student center. We were a part of our student health service. We were one of several departments in there, and so we focused a lot on prevention education for students, while the rest of health services tended to help students who were sick, hurt, or whatever get better. And so we kind of worked together a little bit. But about 7 or 8 years ago, when our new facility was being built, a decision was made to take our health promotion office, merge it with the faculty staff wellness program, which at that time was a part of the human resources department. And they brought us together and put us over here in an office suite. And so now we kind of work together to not only address the well-being of our students, but also of our faculty and staff on campus.
And that's great. I love like hearing like the different ways the university is kind of like modifying itself to kind of meet their student needs. I was talking to Jim earlier about my campus, and like my campus is just a north and a south. That's all you get. There's no in between. There's no around. It's a very small campus. Sure. But the location of health services is in a spot where a lot of the students kind of walk past. They know where to go. The sign's right there. But I kind of wanted to kind of dive into the different services that your office does provide. So it's specifically prevention services?
Yeah, so for the most part, we tend to focus on prevention education. So trying to provide things that help keep our students and our faculty and staff healthy and well. So when you think about in terms of what we do to address things around HIV and AIDS, that's morphed a lot over the years too. I know, as I was telling you, back when I first started, there was a program, certification through American Red Cross, HIV/AIDS education, and I got certified as an instructor trainer. And then usually every year I would train probably about 15 of our students to learn about HIV and AIDS and to be able to go out and do presentations and programs around campus just to make people more informed about what they can do to protect themselves, but also to, I think, remove a lot of the stigma that I think goes around, a lot of the misinformation that, unfortunately, I think some of that still exists today. Since that time, we've kind of changed, I think, our approach a little bit. So now we work with the students to go out and educate, I think, about a more broad-based view of sexual health. Because as you know, in our country, I think it's still something that seems to be taboo to talk about. We still have a very conservative, I think, attitude about sexuality.
We're going to talk about sex? Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. And so we've really worked with them to try to get people to, I think, be more open with it and to really feel like comfortable they could ask any questions that they want about their sexual health. And so we work with a group called our Student Wellness Ambassador Team. It's about 40 students. They help us go out and do a lot of outreach around that. And one of our biggest ways that we do that, as we were talking about, we have a portable gazebo that they call the G-Spot.
I laugh at this. Now you have to tell the story. You know that, right?
Yeah. So this is something we developed probably about 12 years ago. We were looking for a new kind of tool or vehicle, if you will, to bring awareness to sexual health issues. And so we got the idea. One of my colleagues was at a conference. She attended a session. University of Florida at that time had a gazebo they called their Gator Hut. And she thought that was pretty cool. And she said, hey, look what they're doing. Do you guys think that's something you might want to do? And we thought, okay, let's maybe talk about it. So I talked with our students about it. They seemed interested, so they wanted to get a portable gazebo. And so, but we had to figure out what would work on our campus. You know, what would people identify and recognize it as? So as we did a lot of brainstorming about it, the one name that came up that everybody seemed to love, they said, let's call it the G-Spot. And we thought, yeah, that's perfect. Because when you see it, I think the thing that jumps out at most people is they'll see on one of the counters is all the different kinds of condoms that we have, different lubricants, things like dental dams, latex squares, lots of different things that we think our students need to help protect themselves if they're going to be sexually active.
Now, all those things are free?
It's free. It's free. So we're able to get a nonprofit discount. It's a part of our budget, the money that we get. And that allows us to provide all the different supplies that we need. And so we work with a couple different companies that we found where we can get a pretty low cost on all these things. And just over the years, we've kind of figured out what kinds of condoms students seem to be most interested in, what kinds of lubricant, all those different things that they seem to be.
Did you know the thing like the flavored condoms?
We got flavored condoms because, we got to make sure students are protecting themselves if they engage in oral sex too. And a lot of times they don't think about that as being a risky behavior, but we know you can transmit things. So I think that's become a really great vehicle because when you see the G-Spot out, it brings a lot of attention to it. We just go and set it up around locations on campus where there's a lot of student traffic, so the students don't have to find us. Although many students will, coming through our building, they can get some of the same things, they will, but it's more convenient for us to have it out around different parts of campus where the students, just as they're walking by, they can stop over quickly, get what they need, pick up maybe some information, educational pamphlets too about different things. So that's worked really well, and that's been one of our best outreach efforts.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. So it's a portable gazebo. Do you guys just only do things on campus? But what if you're hosting something off campus? Do you kind of work with your off-campus events and kind of?
That's been a little bit harder. We've occasionally tried to do some things, and that requires us to be able to transport. So, in fact, in the past when we were at the health services, there was a van that they had that we were able to use to pack it up, and we could take it to some different places off campus. I know Illinois Wesleyan one time was doing a program. They wanted us to come over there, so we took it over there. I had a person who reached out to me one time. They had like a social gathering they wanted to do. They asked if we would bring it out. We tried bringing it there. I even had a fraternity sorority one time that was hosting an event, and they wanted us to bring it just a little bit place off campus.
Yeah, wow.
But mostly we try
bring
to
on that G
campus.
spot.
Yeah, it's hard. I've even had to use my own vehicle in the past when we had a minivan to try to get it to different places.
Wow.
But it works really well, I think, for just us being, I think, around different places on campus, and now even indoors we can set it up on some spots too, where people can find us.
And that's one of the many great things that you guys are offering with your students. I know we were talking earlier that I'm not sure if we can like dive into too much, but I know you're looking into doing a kind of testing event. You mind kind of talking to me and our audience about that?
Sure, absolutely, Dion. So we've for a number of years now, we've tried to partner with our McLean County Health Department too. They get funding sometimes to go out and do some HIV testing for at-risk populations, which our college students certainly could be considered that. And so we've tried to collaborate and provide spaces on our campus where they can host the testing. We provide a lot of the educational materials, help them with the publicity and promoting it. And so we're trying to coordinate one for this semester, working with Positive Health Solutions. They wanted to come in, do some testing around Valentine's Day. So we're trying to work out the dates and the details, and hopefully have it in February during that week. If it's not on Valentine's Day, one of the days during that week. Yeah. And the idea would be that we'd have our gazebo, the G-spot there. Yeah. We would be letting people know about it and just trying, I think, reduce stigma about it, saying, you know, it's good just to know if you're, what is your HIV status? I mean, that's helpful. And as you know, if somebody is HIV positive, the sooner they can find that out, the better it is for them, because then they can start doing the treatment right away to kind of deal with that. Yeah, so,
the resources. Cause
a big part of our outreach too is letting our students know about those services. Yeah. And to feel comfortable and say, hey, look, it's okay, and you can go over there, get tested. Nobody's going to know. It's very confidential, just like anything else you would do if you did over there. Some of the stuff is free. They've already paid for it through their student fees. Some is at a small fee, which they can just put on their student account if they want to just get billed for it and pay for it later.
That's amazing.
So we try to make our students aware that those services are available and feel very comfortable. And so some of our student wellness ambassadors who've gone and got tested themselves can kind of tell other students what their experience was like, and you know, how it was not embarrassing to go through that.
Right? But it's normal. It's human. Yes. And I think one of the biggest things that we try to tell ourselves is to know your status. That's the most important part whenever you kind of are talking with someone, or if you're getting involved in what we call today is hookup culture, which is one of the biggest things, because like I said, it's a one and done kind of thing. But if you're just one and done kind of thing all the time, like, are you getting tested all the time? So really think about your status when it comes to that. And if you are HIV positive, you're actually more susceptible to getting other STDs because your immune system is slightly compromised. You want to be very aware of your status. I think one of my funnier stories was when I got chlamydia one time, and I didn't know what it was. At that point, I never had an STD. I only had an HIV, and when I found, like, when I was just having problems, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like, why am I like, what's going on down there? And I'm like going to the bathroom, I'm like, okay, I gotta go get this looked at some point. And so I ended up going, and I actually went to the health services department, and they did free testing on Tuesdays, and very confidential. You can go in, get it taken care of. They give you a call a couple of days later, let you know if you have anything or not. But I went and did that, and then 2 days later, they told me what I had, and I went back in, and they were like, hey, you need to let your sexual partners know that if anyone you were previously involved with, kind of let them know that you have chlamydia, and that they could possibly have it too, and that they should get checked, get tested. And I think that's one of the things that we all got to do sometimes, because those conversations are never amazing, but it's important to get back to why I was mentioning that it's important to know your status, important to be aware, be mindful of your body when it's trying to tell you something. I did mention something earlier, and I want to go back to the student ambassadors. First off, you already know I'm going to dig into my journalism side, and I'm going to go find who they are, and we go get some interviews, okay? So you mentioned that, I'm just like, ooh, student ambassadors, wait. So tell me about the student. How did that come together?
Well, it had started before even I got here on campus. They probably 4 or 5 years before I started working here, I think they saw a need to have a peer education program.
Yeah.
Because a lot of campuses were starting to do that. And kind of the mindset behind that is, as you know, sometimes the most effective educators is that those peer-to-peer interactions, you know. Some students may not want to come talk to me. They may not feel comfortable. You know, they might see me as like a father figure. You know, and say,
I can't tell that
guy. But if I can go talk to one of my peers who's doing that, that might be really cool. And plus, you know, students are a lot of times in situations where there's opportunities maybe for them to have those conversations when other people aren't there. And so when I came on board in 1994, at the time they had a peer education group, a small group of probably about 15 to 20 students who at that time were trained particularly in sexual health and alcohol and substances. Those were the two areas that were particularly areas that we wanted to make sure we were addressing on our campus. And so
of course you have the student life, the binge
right,
drinking and things like that.
Right,
So
and a lot of times those go together too, as you know. High risk
yeah.
drinking can sometimes lead to people making, you know,
bad decisions or risky
decisions. And so we were doing a lot of work with them, and over time that started to evolve a little bit to where not only were we having them trained, particularly about doing HIV/AIDS education and outreach, but we saw opportunities to get them really, I think, more addressing a wider range of kind of health and wellness issues that affect everybody. Everything from stress to, you know, eating well, good nutrition, to sleeping, you know, all those things that we know are important to really take care of your immune system. And our program has started to grow. We've now have probably a little bit over 40 members in the group.
Wow.
We transitioned from calling them peer educators to calling them our student wellness ambassador team members, or SWAT, if you will.
Awesome.
And they just go out and do workshops on a variety of health issues, help staff our gazebo. We try to do a lot of collaboration with other student groups on campus to help kind of support things that they're doing as well too. And they've really been our vehicle, I think, for helping to get information out there. And I think it's been good because as they learn more about health and wellness issues that they can then themselves use to help their own well-being, I think they're talking to their friends and other people that they know to kind of get them to do things too to be healthy. So students they've been one of our most valuable assets.
And I wanted to add a comment to that because that is important when your students kind of like believe in the work that they're doing. They then develop that into their personal lives and are more likely to share with their friends about the great things that they're doing, about the great services that they're doing. It's like going to work, you know, you don't really convince your client or your customer that we are a great business. You should come back and keep utilizing us until you like love your job or you in some way, shape, or form love what you do at your job and then can kind of share that little piece of that love with your client and your customer, and then they can be like, wow, this is really great service.
Absolutely.
They're doing really great things. Because just a quick story to that. I have all types of story. Y'all know I got all the stories. But a quick story to that. When I first found out that I was HIV positive, I had learned. My camera is out of focus again. Really, camera? You gonna bring it back? There we go.
Magic.
So when I learned that I was HIV positive, I immediately got offered, hey, come to the support group. We think this would really help you. So I went. I was so scared, just intimidated. Though when I got there, there was about 4 other men that were there, much older, Caucasian men, and I still felt uncomfortable in a sense because, you know, there wasn't someone I can identify with. You know, I can identify as gay or bisexual with the people who identify that there, but of course HIV does not have a name, a race that it goes after. That's just not the case. But I think it makes it more easier for me to kind of not love myself, but be comfortable with talking about myself and my status. Absolutely. If there's someone there that I can be like, hey, like, this is what I'm experiencing and this is how I feel, and like, is there a way the way that you kind of got through it, you know?
Absolutely, and I think you bring a good point. I mean, people, when they're going through certain things, they want to feel like they can talk to somebody without having to worry about being judged.
Yeah.
Right? To feel like, you know, you're shamed, you know, that you did something wrong. And I think that's what we've really tried to create here is we want people to recognize, you know, whatever is going on in your life, you can come here and talk to somebody, get some information, and there's no judgment. I mean, it's just people that want to kind of help support you and get through it, and do whatever we can, so that way you can feel like you can get on with your life and still, be successful at school, be successful whatever it is that you're doing, to really enjoy your life while you're here. And I think that's so important. And one of the things I've seen in the 25 years that I've been here is I just see more of our young people who, for whatever reasons, are experiencing stress and anxiety and just struggling, I think, to find their place in life. And so I think we've tried to look at different ways that we can help them, kind of do that, to grow and to find their meaning and purpose. And so I think having students to help us do that has just been reduce the risk. So providing different kinds of condoms, things that hopefully people will use to reduce the risk if they're going to be sexually active. But, we also try to do things, too, where let's say if we did have a student who was HIV positive, what kinds of resources do they need? And so years ago, when I first started working here, we had an HIV/AIDS committee. That one of the things we wanted to look at was, what are our policies in place? Let's say
where is this committee?
Student living in the residence hall, right?
Yes.
What if they're positive? What things will they need to kind of help make sure, though, that they're not being discriminated against, and that they still have the same access to a good education and everything else that everybody else does? And so we made sure we had people from around campus who needed to be on there to look at whether it's living in the residence halls, to eating in the dining centers, to wherever, making sure that a student could go any of those places and not feel discriminated against. That, I think, was really important.
Shamed or fear.
Absolutely,
like that,
absolutely. But also making sure that, people across campus know where to send somebody, right? To whether it's get information or to seek out testing or to, whatever it is that they need. And so even though our department largely does the education around HIV and AIDS, I think we've tried to work across campus so other people kind of are aware of that. And so if they see students over in their area, they can talk to them a little bit about what they know, but then also know how to refer to us to kind of help them. And so I think that's really important too, because we can't be everywhere. And we want to make sure that people who see students, whether it's an academic advisor who's counseling a student about some stuff and it comes up, they know about us and they can say, hey, you got to go talk to Jim. He's a really good guy. That's a good place to go. And so they oftentimes will refer students to us.
As far as PrEP, I know there are people out there who go to their provider when they find out. I just noticed. Sorry, I just noticed on his desk he has like a little sign of shoe that says the G spot.
Oh.
I'm just like, oh my God, now it's gonna be pointing out everywhere. Some of my friends have expressed to me that PrEP nowadays is kind of that easy to get on, or sometimes it's not that easy because the facility that they're going through maybe have a religious kind of foundation, and they're not kind of offering that or giving the resources to talk about that. And then on the other side, some facilities are just kind of giving out without doing the testing to see where your blood level is, the kidney level is, the liver level, all those tests you got to get done before you get on such a medication. How does your department kind of work between those two?
Well, so we haven't been as involved, I think, with the testing piece as much, now that we've moved out of our student health services.
Correct.
They do most of the testing, and I know they do have a great relationship with the health department here. And so I think one of the things that we've been trying to look at on our campus is how to figure out how to make students more aware that stuff is available if it's needed. How do you coordinate that? So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have Positive Health Solutions come in and work with them when they do testing to kind of maybe do some more education around that for our students too. Because I'll be honest, I haven't been as involved specifically with the HIV/AIDS education like we used to, as we talked about when we were doing some formal trainings. And so I know things have changed a lot since that time. It's probably good for our campus, I think, to be more educated too about what's out there now that maybe wasn't there 10, 15 years ago that we need to make sure our students are more aware of. And so we've had some folks approach us and asking if we want to put some education about it. And of course we said, yeah, absolutely. Let's just figure out how we can do that. So I think that's something that we want to maybe examine, I think, a little bit more closely too.
I think that's really important. It's kind of how we're kind of getting that information out to them. Like, no one's perfect. Like, I learned like every day different things about HIV, and like just because I myself really didn't kind of was doing all the homework that I necessarily didn't need to, but if I'm going to be living with something like this and I kind of want to know more about it, like when I first found out, I was doing so much research. Like it was just like, whoa, like why am I doing this? And now like I know that it is what it is. I kind of laid off on it, and then I kind of tell myself that no, this is something like that affects me every day. I need to be aware of that because sometimes my healthcare provider may not always know all the information or know all the answers to my questions. So I need to be able to kind of inform myself so that when I do go to my healthcare provider, or if I do go to a campus facility, that we're educating each other.
Absolutely.
That there's some exchange.
And I think that's a great point. I think that's true with any kind of health condition is, once you know that you have something, it's good to kind of go out and do some of your own research, like you said, to see what you can learn about it, because our providers, they've got to know a lot about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And sometimes they may not be as aware sometimes of something that's newer or it's been more recent, and so being able to bring that up with your provider, I think, is always a good thing. So that way too you can work together more closely and have a bigger part, I think, of your own healthcare.
Yeah, and getting involved with your healthcare is more importantly, because that was actually one of our topics that we did talk about was what are the issues that people have when they do go in and talk with their provider. And me personally, like when I go in, sometimes I just like draw a blank. I'm just like, what was I gonna ask? Oh my god! So I had to create a list. I had to read magazines, like I said, POS magazine, positive awareness, those different things that everyone's kind of dealing with who are HIV positive and people who are not HIV positive have concerns, but also just kind of having a sense of education on your part to go and talk to your provider, so that information, so you both kind of had that exchange of education.
Absolutely.
They do have to know a lot.
Yeah, and now I've never had to kind of go through that process of dealing with HIV, but I've got a chronic health condition too, chronic fatigue syndrome, which is something that is still, there's a lot of research trying to figure out what exactly causes that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what causes it, sometimes it's hard to figure out what the best treatments are. And so I have had to, over the last 25 years, just through a lot of research about it, learn myself and the different things that are out there that people are trying that seem to help people sometimes. And that's allowed me that when I've met with my doctors to bring that up in conversation.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what do you think about this? Do you think this might be helpful? And they've been able to, just from their experience, just give me their perspective. And so it's a relationship I think you have to have. Because as you're moving forward, you want to kind of figure out what's the best care that I need, right? And everybody's different.
Yep.
And the only way you know sometimes too is by learning about different things you can do and trying and see what works best for you.
That's true. Everyone's different, and everyone has a different type of treatment that they need. You're right. There are just so many different type of HIV treatment medicine out there. We were talking earlier about Jim had asked me, have you had any like complications with any medicine? And I was like, yeah, actually my first one, and it was Stribold. And it was like this giant gray pill. It wasn't massive, but it was a pretty huge pill.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you aren't looking into it, is what I'm trying to get to. You necessarily not really understanding the cause of it yourself. It's kind of hard to figure out what treatment works best. Yeah,
and just knowing about the different possible side effects and things to be aware of, I think, are all important. But as you said, I know one of the challenges for folks with HIV sometimes is be able to stay on the regimen of medications that they need to take and to trust that.
Lord knows there's been some days I missed.
Yeah, and to trust that maybe it's not going to work right away and you may experience some things you don't like, but you have to kind of stick with it for a while and then figure out to adjust things as you go along. It's going to work well for you. And I know that's hard. It's got to be hard.
Takes some time, but we can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah. Well, you've been a positive, I think, role model, I think, for folks and how you've tried to approach it. And I think
Thank you.
That positivity, I think, in my experience, I think that's very important for people because as you're trying to really, I think, take care of your well-being, we know the mind and body all kind of connect together. And so if you can maintain a more positive kind of, I think, approach, that can really help too in recovery.
I have an ongoing joke, and like everyone gives me like crap about it because it's such a punny like joke. It's like, I gotta stay positive because I am positive. And if you're just like, just get out of here, just go home.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
And if there's like anyone just like, just stay positive, and I'm just like, I am positive, and then they're just like, not like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you gotta let it off a little bit. You do.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's all right. Yeah.
My last thing that I wanted to ask Jim was, over the past years working here at ISU, were there any challenges that you guys had to face and kind of overcome?
I wouldn't say major challenges. The biggest challenge, which anybody who's following the state of Illinois, financial issues. Lots of different places are getting less state money for things, and over the years, higher education and public schools relied a lot on the state for some support, and that's really dwindled. And so that's been challenging in the sense that over time, our department, like many others, have had to make some cuts to things, because you're getting less resources, less money. So we've had to be, I think, a little bit more diligent about what things we think are most important to continue. We've been very fortunate that it hasn't impacted things like our condom budget and other things to make sure that we're able to provide resources for students to protect themselves from HIV and other things. But it maybe makes it a little bit more challenging sometimes in that maybe just, we can't buy as many educational materials, or, you kind of have to let go with some of your other outreach programs that are also good things to do as well, too. So that's been challenging. But, surprisingly, we haven't had what I would have thought we would get would be some complaints about the outreach that we do with sexual health. Because as you know, some people who maybe have more conservative beliefs don't think you should be talking about that stuff, don't think you should be having condoms out there. We've always been very supportive in the few complaints that have come up. Our presidents have always been very supportive of what we're doing, and they've allowed us to just let people know why we do it. Yeah, and so we've always been very lucky to do that, because in some places that's not always the case.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can suggest to like our audience, to your students, to kind of help keep these services that we have now going alive?
Yeah, I mean, just, it doesn't hurt sometimes to, write a letter to the university expressing that you think it's great that we're doing that. We, like a lot of other universities now, have had to do more fundraising to kind of help raise money. So people who believe in what we do, they can always donate to our cause. They can donate to help.
Donate, guys. Remember, I did my donation. You can donate as well.
But I would just say the biggest thing is just to tell people about us, to let others know, because we're on a campus of 20-some thousand students. They're bombarded by all kinds of messages and things that they're trying to keep track of. So it's hard for them to always know about everything that's available to them. And so we want them to be aware of what we have over here, and to feel free to come over and utilize our services. So word of mouth.
Word of mouth, guys. So if you are watching this, go do some homework. Go do some research. You might learn a thing or two. But thank you again for watching. This is Dusty Lion, or why do I keep saying that? I don't know why I keep saying this is. Like I'm speaking in like third person. I am Dusty Lion, and this is the great Jim. Thank you for coming on to our YouTube channel and speaking with us about the many, many different services that you offer your students. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
There's I keep drawing a blank. Sorry, guys. But don't forget, go ahead and subscribe down here. If you don't follow my YouTube channel, I am on Instagram. My channel, my Instagram page is called Hopeful and Victory Talks. It's all in caps, just like on here, as you can see. And then I'm also on Facebook as well. Go ahead and like my page, subscribe, follow, and you can see the every and many things that I share and talk about. You guys have a great and awesome day. See you tomorrow.
Bye everybody.